Welcome to our UC Berkeley Virtual Engineering Tour, everyone. Today is November 19th, and we have a very exciting tour lined up for you today. Before we begin, I will take a moment to congratulate our latest Nobel Prize winners. So we have Miss Jennifer Doudna, Professor Doudna, who of course took home the 2020 Nobel Prize in Chemistry, and then Reinhard Genzel, who took home the 2020 Nobel Prize for Physics. And we are so excited about this. Berkeley's newest Nobel Prize winners add to a long legacy of our faculty and our alumni bringing home Nobel Prizes. So we are so excited to celebrate that this week. And with that aside, we will move into some logistics for this virtual visit. So this presentation will be about 40 to 45 minutes. You can type any questions you have in the Q&A. There will be a few polls launching during the duration of this visit. And this visit will also be recorded. If you want to check out a different version, you can go on our website and check out some other student perspectives. This is going to be an engineering overview, so it'll have slightly different material than a regular virtual visit. It is from the student perspective, which means we will not be giving out admissions or financial aid information at this time. And then at the very end of the visit, we will have a Q&A session, and we will do our very best to answer all of your questions, meaning that both questions you submit in the Q&A at the bottom of your screen, we will have typed answers from our lovely ambassadors, and we will also try to answer them live. And with that, I will hand it over to our amazing ambassadors to introduce themselves.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our virtual visit today. My name is Kristina. I use the she, her, hers pronoun series. I'm originally from Whittier, California, which is near LA/Southern California. I'm a third year here at UC Berkeley, actually studying in the College of Engineering. I study industrial engineering and operations research. Along from being a College of Engineering student and giving tours to prospective students such as yourselves, I'm involved in the UC Rally Committee, which is one of our spirit groups on campus, Hispanics in Engineering and Science, and Society of Women Engineers, to engineering-based club, and also HOSBB, which is a business club / program for students in high school interested in getting involved in our business program once they start undergrad.
Hello, everybody. I hope we're all having a fantastic day today. My name is Aidan. I use the he, him, his pronouns, and I'm from Dana Point, California, which is also kind of Southern California near LA. I'm a junior as well, and I'm studying chemical engineering. As for some of my involvement on campus, other than being a campus ambassador, I'm also on the UC Valley Committee with Kristina, so we have a lot of fun parallels there. Last year, I taught the Cal History Spirit and Cal. If you're unfamiliar with what decals are, they are courses at UC Berkeley that are taught by students to other students. So last year, I taught a course all about the history in the UC Berkeley, which is really fun. And I'm also part of the American Institute of Chemical Engineers, or IKE for short, and that is a group that connects all the chemical engineers on campus and gets us connected to research opportunities, internship opportunities, all sorts of fun stuff. And with that, I'll pass it back to Kristina so we can get this tour started.
Yeah, decals are literally the best. And I actually took that history and traditions decal, not when Aidan taught it, but the year before he taught, I took it, and it was great. So you'll see a poll popping up on your screen asking who you are. So I see there's a couple prospective transfer students, a couple high school seniors. So we just want to kind of gauge who our audience is today. So if you could fill that poll out, that would be amazing. So again, welcome to UC Berkeley. You'll see a couple images on the screen to just kind of let you see our campus. Obviously, you can't be on campus right now, but to give you a pretty good perspective of it, top left-hand corner, you can see kind of an overview of the city of Berkeley / our campus. We have a pretty large campus, I'd say, but it's very condensed and it's pretty easy to get around. Bottom left-hand corner, we're celebrating 150 years of women this year. So we'll talk a little bit more about that and what we're doing in the College of Engineering to celebrate it. Center of your screen, you'll see our Campanile, which I've had a lot of great memories there as campus ambassadors. We work in there and welcome all of our guests and all of our students to go up to the top of the tower and see the amazing views of the Bay Area. A lot of also great memories for the top right-hand picture. That's Memorial Glade, which is a great just hangout spot in the middle of campus. You see that picture and it looks kind of staged, but that's literally what students do. They just hang out with friends, do homework, read some books. There's always someone playing some sort of instrument on there, a lot of just like studying and like hangouts in Memorial Glade, and a lot of great times I've had there. So yeah, there's a little bit about our campus just to give you a better perspective of what it looks like in person. And also, it seems like we have mostly high school seniors, but also some prospective transfer students. So thank you all for joining us today. And with that, I'm just going to quickly go over what we're going to talk about today. So the main topics are going to be a general overview of the university. Then we're going to talk specifically about the departments within the College of Engineering and specific College of Engineering major information. Then kind of talking about what do students do outside of class? What do they do for internships? What labs and makerspaces are available? Research, and then the legacy that UC Berkeley Engineering has as well.
All right, now first of all on this tour, we're going to talk a little bit about the history and establishment of UC Berkeley. So it's founded all the way back in 1868, which is a little over 150 years ago. We go by very many names: Berkeley, Cal, University of California. And the reason why is because we are the first of the 9 undergraduate UC schools. So when this university was founded, we were simply just called the University of California. It was only later when the other UC schools started to get founded that we had the Berkeley name put with the university. But because we were called the University of California back then, we still get to call ourselves Cal and University of California. So that's a really cool perk that we got from that. Our mascot is the Golden Bears. One thing that's really fun on campus is that we're a very spirited group of students here on campus. And one thing that we have is that we just say "Go Bears" about like everything. It's just a term that you can just apply to everything, where it's like, oh, like having a rough week, go Bears, or like, oh, going to the football game, go Bears. It's just really fun. As for the campus size, we have around 30,000 undergraduates, with around 3,700 of them being engineers and 11,000 graduate students, with 2,300 of them being engineers. So engineers are definitely a good chunk of the university, but they're not everybody. One of the things I was kind of afraid of when I was coming here is, am I only going to be surrounded by engineers? But I've met tons of other people outside of the College of Engineering and different majors. So that's really cool. You'll be able to meet a wide range of people here.
So as Aidan was saying, we have much more than just College of Engineering and engineering students. So we actually have 5 undergraduate colleges that are listed on the screen right now. We have obviously the College of Engineering that we're going to talk in depth about today, which has 11 majors. The College of Chemistry, which Aidan is actually a part of, which has their chemical engineering department, along with just like chemistry and biochemistry department. College of Letters and Science, which is our largest undergraduate college with about 75% of our undergraduate population, and it spans about 85 majors and minors. So really in there, you can find a large breadth of both STEM and humanities majors. Browser College of Natural Resources, majors that focus on the environment and like just bettering our society, and our College of Environmental Design, which focuses a little bit more on architecture and city and regional planning. So yeah, we're specifically going to concentrate on engineering and chemistry, but if you're interested in any of the other colleges, we have general virtual visits that we talk in depth about all the colleges. So feel free to check those out. Same place you registered for this tour. And a little quick note I'd like to mention, it's always, we're going to emphasize this throughout the tour, always great to apply directly into the specific colleges. It is possible to transfer between colleges, but it's a little tricky. You have to get like major advisors involved, have to maintain a certain GPA, all that sort of stuff. A lot easier if you just apply directly, which is I think how both me and Aidan got our majors, just applying directly when we applied to UC Berkeley.
All right, now we're going to transition into focusing more specifically on the College of Engineering. So here we have the mission statements for the College of Engineering, which I'll read real quick. Transform the lives of our students by preparing them to become successful leaders and innovators for positive change, and also expand the knowledge and create transformative technology through original research to tackle the world's biggest challenges. So the cool thing about the College of Engineering and the engineering education in general here at Berkeley is that they're not only focusing on teaching you all the nitty gritty, really challenging like math equations and how to design reactors and big buildings and stuff, but they're also focusing on the impact that your decisions have. Like what's the environmental impact of something? What's like a better, more efficient way of doing something? So not just like all doing math all the time, but looking at the big picture of things, which is something that I really appreciate personally. Like we look through a lot of real world examples in my classes and like what went wrong and what we can do better. And so I think that's a really cool thing for when you go out into the industry, you really have that full knowledge of everything. And so as for the culture of the College of Engineering, we're big change makers, challenging the status quo, entrepreneurship, research and innovation, kind of emphasizing some of that stuff I was talking about earlier. And as for the community, we have a very compassionate and passionate community that's really striving for social justice, has a lot of spirit and pride, diversity and excellence. So I'll say that community is probably my favorite thing at UC Berkeley, not only here in the College of Engineering, but throughout the university in general. It's a very compassionate and very accepting group of people. And it's definitely the biggest thing that drew me to UC Berkeley. It really is a place where I feel like I belong and I have that great community. And that really helps with the College of Engineering specifically, because you have that kind of like collaborative working together and that respect of everybody. So that's something that's really fun that the College of Engineering offers that I really appreciate.
Yeah, so you'll see another poll popping up on your screen. Feel free to answer it, just asking you what major you're interested in. So now we're going to go into the specific 11 majors that we mentioned we have in the College of Engineering, and also the one major we have in the College of Chemistry. All of our 11 majors are ranked in the top 9 globally. Actually, a recent news article, I think I read about like a month or maybe like month and a half ago, was actually saying that we have the #2 undergrad program in like globally for engineering, #1 master's program in the entire world. So all of these programs, like you'll see the pie chart and see that most of our students come from the electrical engineering and computer science department. Seems like the poll has the same results. A lot of mechanical, chemical, a lot of chemical engineering, that's great, and bioengineering as well. So those are kind of like the most typical like pathways into engineering, but even the smaller majors we have, like industrial engineering and operations research, I didn't know about it before I came to Berkeley, but we really have a great program. Nuclear engineering as well, I think it's like one of the smaller ones, but also just such a great program. And again, we also recommended that you apply directly into the college you want to study in. Also great to apply directly into the major you want to study in. We'll talk about different pathways you can take to get to that major. But the College of Engineering and also the College of Chemistry, when you apply to UC Berkeley, if you're accepted, if you pick a specific major, such as, let's say, bioengineering, you'll come in declared as that major if you are accepted. So you don't have to go through the process of declaring a major, such as in other colleges. So that just means everything, your first semester, you already start taking like your major requirements. So it's a lot better to just apply directly to get that head start and not fall behind, because transferring could take a couple semesters, up to like your 4th or 5th semester. So it's always great. So yeah, just apply directly and kind of avoid that. After graduating from these 11 majors, most of our students go into industry and go straight into the workforce, but a lot of our students also go into grad school. As I said, we have #2 ranked master's program globally for Berkeley Engineering. So a lot of people will just continue their master's. We have a 5-year master's track available for those students who want to do that, and they can apply during the fall of their senior year. We also have PhD programs. We have a bunch of different programs for people who still want to study and just continue their studies at UC Berkeley, or also a lot of our students go to another university as well to continue grad school, and also, of course, research. A lot of students are heavily involved in research during their 4 years of undergrad, but also after. Many of them continue with that research, especially like in the bioengineering or material sciences field, where it's a little bit more research intensive.
All right, now next on this tour, we're going to be going into all the different majors, talking about what they offer or makes them unique and what's special about them being at Berkeley. So the first major we're going to talk about is the engineering undeclared major, which is actually what Kristina came in as when she first came here to UC Berkeley. And so this one's a bit unique because of course you come not declared as one of the engineering majors, and basically you'll take an introductory seminar class. You kind of get exposed to different kind of engineerings, see which one you may like the most, and then you get to declare whatever kind of engineering you want within the College of Engineering, and you'll declare by your 4th semester. So it does definitely give you a lot of freedom to choose which engineering you want, but it is definitely a lot harder to get in for engineering undeclared. It's more easier to like choose a specific engineering, but that option is still there if you're still unsure about things. So it's nice to know you have that kind of freedom to choose that option. The next major we have is nuclear engineering. Nuclear engineering is a pretty interesting one. I had a friend in my dorm freshman year who was a nuclear engineering major. It's definitely a smaller group that he told me, but is very interesting and unique major. Focuses a lot on energy, radiation, research and development. So they're doing a lot of focus on his classes in terms of like how you can apply the nuclear engineering like topics at different places here and there, because it's a very like applicable subject. But there's also a lot of things where like nuclear energy, of course, but there's also a lot that uses nuclear technology for like medical applications. There's this whole like radioactive isotope thing where they use to like track certain molecules that go through the body, which is pretty neat. And also just transporting certain nuclear materials, you need to have like that knowledge for things. So it's definitely a very interesting major. It's a very smaller major, but still interesting. And then we have bioengineering, which is one of the more popular ones on the pie chart earlier. I think it said it was like 10%-ish of Berkeley engineers are bioengineering. And once again, they also focusing on research and development, but there's a lot of really neat applications of bioengineering with like biomedicals, information technology, and genetics. So one thing that's really cool about UC Berkeley being in the Bay Area is that we're right next to San Francisco, which is where the biotech industry was founded. And so there's lots of biotech industry there. There's a lot of like pharmaceutical stuff in that area. And also just generally throughout like the country and throughout the world, there's a lot of things you can do with bioengineering. But because UC Berkeley is so close to San Francisco, there's also just a lot of research opportunities that you can get through bioengineering. We talked earlier about Jennifer Doudna, how she got the Nobel Prize in chemistry. I actually know somebody is a bioengineering major that's in her research lab. So it's cool that she gets exposed to that research lab as being bioengineering major here at Berkeley. So that's really cool. You get that opportunity with bioengineering. With that, we'll move on to the next slide and talk about some more engineering.
Yeah, it's the bioengineering department is housed in Stanley Hall, which is actually where all the CRISPR gene editing research, or I think its like main location is. So yeah, a lot of bioengineering students, even though not in the same department she won the Nobel Prize in, bioengineering students are very heavily involved, and also biology students in our College of Letters and Science as well. I know a couple of them that are under her lab. But yeah, a couple other majors we have are industrial engineering and operations research. So yeah, as Aidan said, I came in as undeclared engineering, and I ended up picking IEOR, which kind of to condense it into an acronym. But IEOR is a major that focuses a lot on complex systems operation, making just everything more efficient, effective, and safe. So for example, if you're driving in a car and you notice like the lights, depending how busy a street is, the lights will change every so often. Those are industrial engineers behind that, trying to make traffic flow better. If you go to an amusement park and they have like fast pass set up and they have like different like estimated wait time, 45 minutes, that sort of thing. IOR students / graduates are behind that, trying to make sure that they can give everyone the best possible experience when like waiting for lines, when in their cars, waiting at stoplights, that sort of thing. So it's not people you see building anything, it's more of the math behind making sure everything's efficient and making sure everything just flows better. So a lot of companies will hire industrial engineering and operations research, such as like Google, such as Amazon, who just want high productivity rates. And industrial engineers will go in there, look at what the company's doing currently, figure out the math, and figure out how to just make it better. We also have material science and engineering, which is housed in, I think, one of the most beautiful buildings on campus. Picture on the right-hand side, Hearst Memorial Mining Building. It's also one of, I think, the older buildings on campus, but it's absolutely beautiful from the inside. I'm sure, I think later in the tour, there's another picture of it from the inside of it. But material science and engineering focuses on desirable material properties, function, environmental impact, feasibility, cost. So instead of, we'll talk about a major that focuses on like the planning, the sketching, like the actual building of things. Material science and engineering focuses a little bit on that, but more so how can we make it so this material that we use a lot but is kind of scarce, how can we use a different material that we have more of an abundance of, or this material that we use for this product is really expensive. What other material has very similar properties, but we can get for a cheaper price? So yeah, they focus a lot on that. So it's not something like people usually see, but it's really cool. One of my friends that I have since like freshman year, he lived in my same dorm room floor. He was a material science and engineering student, and he joined a club called Concrete Canoe Club. And on his desk in his dorm, he just had a bunch of different like circles of concrete. And I was like, why do you have all these like little like concrete / cement like stones? Like, is that for one of your classes? He's like, yeah. So for Concrete Canoe Club, every year we get in different teams and make different canoes made entirely out of concrete, and they're able to float. We look at different concrete levels and like pressurize them to see how like flexible they are, how like buoyant they are, all of that. So yeah, they do all of that sort of stuff, and they have different clubs inside of that major, and they get to practice what they learn in class, which are all these different material properties, and what material properties lead to stuff floating, and what material properties lead to stuff being flexible, and which ones are cheaper and more expensive, and all of that.
All right, next one that we'll be moving on to is civil and environmental engineering. So we have both civil engineering and environmental engineering kind of packed together in the same department. The reason why is because civil engineering has like a lot of applications that can affect like the environment. So that's the thing I was talking about earlier, where engineering here at Berkeley are teaching you not only the math, but also just like the bigger picture of like what impact your decisions have. So yeah, they focus a lot on data, natural environments, and structure, sustainability, infrastructure, and control systems. So the main thing about civil engineering is that this is building all like your big structures and stuff, all like the big buildings. And so one cool group that I know that a lot of my civil engineering friends are a part of is one called Steel Bridge, where it's this group where they basically try to design the steel bridge and like build it for this competition. And I know that like, I think it was a couple of years ago that like they went to like this competition that like they ranked like really high. I forget if they're number one. They're either like number one or like 2 or 3 or something like that, really high, like when it could be other universities. So that's really cool. And I know lots of civil engineering friends are just so geeky about everything civil engineering. So it's really cool to see that. And also the university, we'll talk about this a bit earlier, but like on campus, we have like a lot of, what do you call it? We have like a lot of like spaces where people are able to like apply their knowledge and stuff. And so like there's one building that they have where there's this big like construction bay area where people are able to bring like their different structures and like test that. They tested parts of like the Golden Gate Bridge in that area. And so that's really cool. And so students have the same access to that area, which is pretty awesome. And then the other major I'm going to talk about here in this slide is mechanical engineering. So civil engineering was all about building the structures you want to stay still, but mechanical engineering is the stuff like you want to move around and like machine moving stuff. And so there's a lot of multidisciplinary projects through mechanical engineering, and there's a lot of applications for mechanical engineering to other systems where it's like bioengineering. There's certain like machines and like medical devices that involve like moving structures, or like in computer science stuff, or like you can code something and then you need the like mechanics to like work alongside the code to like move with it. So there's a lot of cool applications that we have for mechanical engineering, and there's a lot of opportunities to the department to apply your knowledge to different classes. And so there's a lot of material machine design application. And then there's another place on campus where there's this big machine shop where students are able to like plug in their machines and work with that, similar to civil engineering where they have their big wide open area. So that's really cool. That's a big thing I want to emphasize in this slide, is that there's a lot of places on campus where you get to apply the stuff that you're learning and like physically see it happen in person, which is really awesome.
Yeah, talking about just like getting out there and just like applying, like having spaces to apply everything. One of the areas we'll talk about later is a Richmond Field Station, and a lot of different majors use it, but actually the next major I talk about uses a lot of for research and just like having space up there to do research. The engineering science department has 4 different concentrations inside of it: energy engineering, engineering and mathematics statistics, engineering physics, and environmental engineering science. I know a couple and environmental engineering science major students who actually go out to the Richmond Field Station. Again, like Aidan said, we have all of these programs and all of these spaces available to us, so might as well take advantage of them while we're here. But yeah, all of these majors focus on green technology, energy systems, science, math, biology, physics. So these are very small, like niche majors inside of the college. I don't think any of these majors are over like 80 students in total. They're really, really small, but because of that, they're really unique, and students are able to kind of play more around with their like schedule. Like for me, I'm not sure about Aidan, but like for industrial engineering and operations research, we kind of have a set schedule. You got to pick a couple classes. Oh, do you want to take IEOR 172 or like 190 something? But for the most part, you kind of have your schedule set in stone. But with these engineering science majors, it's meant for students to kind of find out specifically like a niche department they want to focus on. in the College of Engineering. So like for energy engineering, we have a lot of civil and environmental engineering classes, which they can take. They can also take classes in the College of Natural Resources. They'll have to take like physics classes in the physics department, chemistry classes that like chemical engineering students would take. So they really take like a little bit from a lot of majors to kind of make up their own small like niche concentration. So that's something that I've heard a lot of students really enjoy. Like specifically if they're not interested in civil engineering and they want to do just like environmental engineering, they're able to do that. And yeah, talking about those majors, the pictures to the right-hand side are kind of like our general engineering buildings. Left hand side picture is our main just engineering, one of the main like engineering department offices. So I don't think I've ever had a class in there, but I know there's a lot of like office hours that I've been to inside of that building. Top right-hand picture is the Bechtel Engineering Center. So the bottom floor is actually where our advising offices are at. And then bottom right-hand picture is actually your engineering library, which is Kresge, which a lot of engineering science students study at, but also just all engineering students in general.
Yeah, I love Kresge Library. Like they focus on like telling you to like collaborate with students. There's all like tables and stuff there, like all facing each other. So I've like worked with a lot of students there to help with like problem sets and studying and whatnot. And so yeah, we've gone over a lot of information. So if you have any questions, remember you have the Q&A thing down below. We have a lot of ambassadors on the back end to answer your questions. So feel free to go to that because this is a lot of information. But on this slide, I'll be talking about electrical engineering and computer science, or Eeks for short, which I'll probably be calling it that from now on because Eeks is the whole major is a mouthful, so Eeks is just really short. Anyways, so Eeks focuses on technological problem solving and collaboration in industry. I was talking about earlier about how the College of Engineering focuses on like collaboration. That was one of the big things I was afraid about coming to UC Berkeley. Like, this is going to be a competitive environment. Like, am I going to be like not working together with people? But thankfully, they focus a lot on that collaboration. And so for Eeks classes and computer science classes, they focus a lot on like you being in a lab. Like you'll see in the bottom right picture, there's an example of like one of the labs that people will be in. And basically that's a place where you'll all be like at tables and you'll have your laptops or computers, like trying to do some sort of coding assignment. And you have like a graduate student instructor who's like running the section. We'll talk about that a bit later, what that's all about. But basically they're just running the section, and then you're basically trying to do like the assignment, trying to code something, and you're like all together at the same table and you're like coding it together and basically trying to work together to figure out how to do something. And like I've seen that also just a lot at like the dorms, studying rooms, and libraries where people are just together in their laptops trying to figure out how to do something together, which is pretty neat. Focusing a lot on computer-aided design and microwave, quantum, optical electronics, and circuits. Some of those topics are pretty interesting because they're recent and like newer innovations in the computer science and electrical industry. So that's really great how Eeks is really puts you out there into the industry so that you know the same stuff that everybody else is using in their job lives. So that's pretty awesome. And now we'll be moving on to the next slide where we're going to be talking about comparing computer science and Eeks. So these are two separate majors at UC Berkeley. Like confusion as to like which one should each person go to because each of the different majors like appeals to certain different people. And so electrical engineering and computer science is a Bachelor of Science and it's in the College of Engineering, while computer science is Bachelor of the Arts and it's in the College of Letters and Science. So I talked a little earlier about like the undeclared and directly declared. And so for Eeks, when you apply and you get in for Eeks, you automatically have the major. And then for computer science, you're considered to be undeclared when you first get in. And you basically have to reach a certain number of like course requirements and reach a certain GPA before you can fully declare that major. And so Eeks focuses on both hardware and software because like the electrical engineering is like the hardware side of things, but computer science is purely just the software side of things. So some people don't want to learn about the hardware stuff, do just the software stuff. And so computer science is more so there. And because you don't focus on the hardware stuff, you have way more flexibility and you take 7 breadth courses as opposed to 4 breadth courses for Eeks. And so that gives you a lot more freedom to look at other courses. And it's definitely a lot more practical to double major if you're doing computer science. Not that double majoring is necessary. It's definitely pretty challenging to do computer science another major, but I do know some people that have double majored in computer science. I know somebody a couple of years ago double majored in chemical engineering and computer science. He said it was really crazy, but he really wanted to do both and he's able to do it. And so CS gives you that flexibility where Eeks, you don't have as much of that flexibility. So both these different majors appeal to different people. I know some people who love Eeks, some people love computer science. And so we just wanted to clear that up because that is definitely a confusing thing when people are applying to UC Berkeley.
Yeah, definitely. I think we always get a bunch of questions on our CS versus Eeks program. So thank you, Aidan, for kind of clarifying that and going over everything. But other than our majors which we've already gone through, we have other opportunities. So a couple of the majors that we talked about today actually have a joint major program. I don't know them all off the top of my head, but I believe there's like a bioengineering and like civil engineering. I know there's like, I think there's like a nuclear engineering and material science engineering joint major. So these are just pre-established programs that make it easier for those wishing to double major in the College of Engineering. As Aidan said, it's really difficult to double major in the College of Engineering because a lot of them have a ton of technical courses that are required for each specific major. So it would be a really, really heavy course load. So because of that, these joint majors make it a little bit easier already having pre-established programs with like pre-established classes. You take these classes this semester, then these classes this semester to make sure you're able to complete both majors in 4 years. We actually have a poll popping up again asking where you guys are joining us from. So if you could fill that out, that would be great. But yeah, we also have minors for all of the 11 majors have a minor program connected to it, and even more minors than we have majors. Inside the mechanical engineering department, we actually have an aerospace engineering minor. So I know that's something I was really interested in looking into for other colleges. And I was kind of like bummed out that Berkeley didn't have an aerospace engineering major. But then I looked into it further and they actually have aerospace engineering minor under mechanical engineering. So you could do like mechanical engineering as your major or something else, doesn't have to be mechanical engineering, and then you'll do aerospace as your minor. And it's really cool when you still get that experience and are still able to apply to those like aerospace jobs. It seems like most of you guys are stay in Eastern time zone and then tied for Northern California and Central. So no Southern California natives like myself and Aidan, but thank you all for being here again. We aren't going to talk about dorms and like that sort of stuff during this tour, but for anyone that's interested, other than the Northern California people, most students during a typical year going to have to like live in the dorms or live in an apartment or find some sort of housing. So we go more in depth about all of that during our general virtual visit. But if you have any questions, feel free to ask in the Q&A. We can also answer those questions as well if you're interested. We also have a couple certificate programs, the Design Innovation Certificate, Entrepreneurship and Technology Certificate. It's basically a certificate you get for taking some courses in the College of Engineering. You don't have to be in the College of Engineering to finish these certificates. They're about 4 to 5 classes, and they just give you kind of less than a minor, but just kind of a view into that like subset of like design innovation or what it's like for entrepreneurship and technology. And then lastly, we have the Management, Entrepreneurship and Technology program, which originally was a program for students applying into UC Berkeley that were interested in both engineering and business. And first year students would apply, or high school seniors would apply when they're applying into. But now we've opened it up, I think this next fall. So continuing students could also apply into the MET program. So yeah, it's basically just a double major between the College of Engineering, major of your choice. I think we have about 6 majors. And then an undergraduate like business administration degree. So yeah, it's a really competitive program, but it's really, really cool in case you're interested in both sides of those. And yeah, I've met like 2 or 3 people inside of the program and they seem to love it. One of them is actually a campus ambassador and she thinks it's, you know, a great program. She's doing the Eeks plus business program. She seems to love it. So yeah, it's a pretty new program, but I would highly recommend looking into it if you're interested in business as well as engineering.
All right, and now to finish off our discussion on the different types of majors, we're going to be talking about the College of Chemistry, where chemical engineering is found, which is my major. So real quick, I just want to clear up like why chemical engineering is in this college and not the College of Engineering. The way I look at it is that because we have a College of Chemistry, it makes sense to put chemical engineering in this college, whereas if we have like a computer science college, then Eeks would be found there because that's like the specific part of Eeks that you're focusing on. And so, yeah, because that's a big like misconception because some people think, oh, chemical engineering is in the College of Chemistry, so you'll learn about engineering. That's totally not the case. I definitely have taken some classes through the College of Engineering for my chemical engineering curriculum. So you'll still be learning about engineering. And honestly, I'm a bit more like proud and like happy that's in the College of Chemistry because this college is ranked #1 globally, which is pretty amazing. There's also chemistry and chemical biology here. So while you're taking certain College of Chemistry classes, you'll be exposed to the different chemistry and chem bio people. So it's fun to like geek out with them and talk about chemistry stuff, which is always fun. And some cool things about the College of Chemistry is that 16 elements were discovered here, which also include berkelium, californium, and seaborgium. Seaborgium is named after one of our faculty members a while ago, and then berkelium, californium, of course, is named after the university. And so 16 elements is a ton. That's about like 10% of the periodic table. And so no university will ever come close to that, at least in our lifetimes, to that achievement. So that's really awesome. And then another thing is that Lewis dot structures were also discovered here in the early 1900s. We had Professor Lewis, who's teaching a general chemistry class, is having a hard time like showing everybody where like the electrons were in a specific bond. And so he came up with Lewis dot structures on the fly. And now Lewis dot structures are a part of like everyday high school chemistry classes. So that's really cool how that decision all the way back then like brought to completely change the way how chemistry is taught, and happened here at Berkeley. And so, yeah, the College of Chemistry has some really amazing professors and faculty. You really are learning from the greatest and best chemistry people. And one cool thing about chemical engineering here on the campus is that there's one class that we take as chemical engineers where you basically use like versions of like all the big machines and reactors and distillers and stuff that are used in industry. And so you get to use like all the same like buttons and like all the stuff that controls it. And so the really neat thing about that is that when you go in the industry, like you know how to use the big machines that all the big companies are using. So that's another great perk that we have for being in the industry. So yeah. Woo.
Yeah, I love our College of Chemistry. And even like if you're in the College of Engineering, you're going to take classes in the College of Chemistry and vice versa. So yeah, we really kind of integrate both colleges. And they're right next to each other too. So you can walk to the buildings in like 5 minutes. So to talk a little bit about student diversity on campus, so being like a woman / Hispanic in STEM is something that really kind of intrigued me when I first visited campus, to just see how much like UC Berkeley tries to emphasize having a diverse student population inside of the college. So we have our Women in Science and Engineering theme program, where different women in science can live on the same floor of a dorm room and kind of all have that in common. So I think it's Stern Hall, which is our all-female residence hall, actually has maybe it's 1 or 2. I'm not sure how many specific floors. Obviously, right now, due to COVID, it's a little bit different, but they usually have dedicated floors specific to women in science and engineering. So because of that, you're taking the same classes, you have kind of the same background that you're a woman in STEM, and that isn't super typical. So you're able to like foster community and really help each other out. We have the Black Engineering and Science Student Association for Black / African American students in STEM, which is again very small percentage overall, and UC Berkeley tries to up that number and tries to give them all the resources they need to be successful. Hispanics and engineers and scientists as well. So yeah, EOP STEM, which is for first generation students, and the pre-engineering program for students who might have not had like a super strong engineering curriculum in their high school and are able to come in the summer before and kind of, lead on that.
All right, now on this slide, we'll be talking a little bit about the academics and the class structure here at UC Berkeley. I talked a little bit earlier about graduate student structures, or GSIs for short, and like sections. So the way this works is that most of our classes have like a big lecture section where you have everybody in the class, which can range to like around like 80-ish, like 50-ish, depending on what kind of major you're taking, to like in the hundreds. And so, of course, it depends on which class you're taking. So you'll have like general math classes that all the engineers will take, and they'll have like a few hundred students, where right now a lot of the upper division chemical engineering classes I'm taking right now have like around like 70-ish students in it. And so in that lecture section, that's where you have your professor, where you're learning all the main course material. And then you'll have your separate section run by a GSI, which is a much smaller setting, which is supposed to mimic about the size of a high school class, around like 20-ish students. And so that's supposed to help you like work together with students, and also have a kind of like one-on-one with the GSI, asking questions about things, being able to like review the material more carefully. And these sections are very helpful. Like I wouldn't be nearly successful without these. It's really nice because they're just like little review sessions that you have every week essentially. And so it's really great at keeping you up to task, helping you with like any homework problems that you just can't figure out. which is great. And then you also have office hours, which is time that your GSI and professor sets aside every week, where you can go to their office, or right now, if everything being on Zoom online, basically going to their Zoom link. And there you have the same one-on-one questions where you get to ask them about certain questions about the class, just so that like it doesn't like interrupt as much with the lecture, because usually you have a lot of material you have to go through. And so office hours really help you with that one-on-one interaction. There's been so many times where I've gone to office hours like the week leading up to a midterm, and it just like helped me out so much, like help clear out my confusion and figure out all the material beforehand. And it's definitely led to me being a lot more successful and understanding stuff a lot better. I'm really appreciative of that. And so I talked a bit about class size earlier, depending on the major. And also there's a lot of emphasis on like class participation. So I have these things called iClickers, which is essentially where your professor will have like a poll or something pop up during the class, and then you can use the iClicker to like answer like A, B, C, or D, whatever that corresponds to in the question. With everything being on Zoom, it's pretty neat because now we have like what you all were doing earlier with like the polls, filling that out. We're doing that in our classes as well, where we'll have like a question come up and then we get to choose whatever we think is right. And then the professor can say like, okay, you understand that, or they focus a bit more on the topic to see if they need to clear up some things. Which is great. And then there's a lot of resources that help out with academics. There's a Student Learning Center, which is a big center where you can get tutoring for. The Student Learning Center focuses on like all those big introductory classes, like the introductory math classes that have a lot of students in them. And then there's a lot of other like resources specifically in the College of Chemistry and College of Engineering. I'm not too familiar what like the College of Engineering's resources are like, but I know College of Chemistry has its own like student tutoring center where like there's students that volunteer to tutor other students, and they have like certain times, and they all focus on like certain classes, which is pretty neat. And yeah, and also academic advisors are really great. My advisor through the College of Chemistry has helped me out figuring out my schedule. It's definitely with engineering, you have to take a ton of different classes, and sometimes it gets confusing to figure out how you put everything together in your schedule. And my academic advisor has helped me out a ton figuring that out. So lots of great resources. These all have helped me succeed a lot more while I've been here at Berkeley.
Yeah, and with that, we also have club and competition teams. So we have a couple of the teams we already mentioned, Cal Steel Bridge team, the Concrete Canoe team. I don't see it on here. Oh, actually see, top left-hand corner picture, that's them right there, probably like near Lake Tahoe or something, testing it out. We have Cal Soul, which you can see in the bottom left-hand picture, Berkeley Formula Racing. I don't think there's a picture up on screen, but you can look them up. They make these really, really cool Berkeley Formula Racing cars, and they go to Richmond Field Station and test them out. Society of Women Engineers, which I'm involved in. Cal Hacks, which is I think semesterly. Yeah, I think it's every semester, just a program where a lot of definitely CS students and Eeks students for sure, but just people of all majors that have taken like at least introductory CS courses. They'll do this Cal Hacks program and invite other universities. And it's a really, really cool competition that a lot of people seem to love. And they do it by like, you make your own teams. So I know some of my clubs have made their own teams. You can also just do it with friends. And it's a great way to get involved in UC Berkeley clubs and just competition teams in general. And we also have research that is available to all students in the College of Engineering and all students in general. So we have the Undergraduate Research Apprenticeship Program, URAP. So yeah, this program focuses specifically on, I think you can apply as early as your first semester. You apply to 3 research opportunities on campus, and through there, you're able hopefully to get at least one offer and then work under either a professor or graduate student instructor inside UC Berkeley and work alongside them to get that research experience, especially as an undergrad, when usually there aren't a lot of research opportunities available to you, but UC Berkeley makes those available. Beehive, which is kind of like just a place where you can find a bunch of different engineering specifically, I believe, internship / research opportunities. Lawrence Berkeley National Lab, we have kind of the great honor of having a national lab right near us and like just like crossing the street. So a lot of students, I know a couple of my friends have, after they graduated, gone to do research or get a job in Berkeley National Lab. Lawrence Berkeley National Lab, but also during your time, you can also do like small research / internships inside of there. And it's kind of really nice if you get it, because then you're able to study and kind of do your research / internship without going out into like the greater Silicon Valley, we have to travel a lot. It's really close to Berkeley. And you can take like one of our public transportation options all the way up there. Sutarja Center for Entrepreneurship and Technology, also great place. They host various events such as the Collider Cup and undergraduate and professional program/research as well. So yeah, there's a bunch of opportunities for research, and you can see OSCE there in the top left-hand corner. I think it's like a safety video that we watch in all the labs. But yeah, basically telling you to be safe, wear your gloves, wear your safety goggles, but also get involved in research because there's a bunch of opportunities at Berkeley.
All right, and then to wrap up this tour, before we go into the Q&A section, we're going to talk a little bit about the there are a lot of cool notable figures and alumni here. First of all, we have Rube Goldberg. He's designed the thing called the Rube Goldberg machine, which is something that you've probably seen like on YouTube or like portrayed in some sort of movie or cartoon somehow, which is essentially making a really complex machine to do a really simple task. And so here's an engineer and cartoonist while he's here at Berkeley, and he came up with that. And it's a neat thing that you still see applied here and there, which is pretty neat. We also have Dean Liu, who is the current dean of the College of Engineering. And so she's the first female dean and instructor, researcher, and administrator. She's accomplished a ton of different things. And it's really cool that we have her as a female dean. And she focuses a lot on getting that like equitable resources and education for everybody, which is really important. And then we also have Shaffy Goldwasser. She was a graduate here. She graduated from here at UC Berkeley. And so she won the Turing Prize, which is a really neat prize because it's essentially the Nobel Prize for computer science. And the Turing Prize hasn't been around for like nearly as long as the Nobel Prize. There aren't many winners. So the Turing Prize is like quite a bit rarer than finding a Nobel Prize winner. And so UC Berkeley has one of the Turing Prize winners, which is pretty neat, very unique, very rare. And then the last one we're here to talk about is Steve Wozniak. He's the co-founder of Apple, a pretty big company. I'm sure you've heard about them. He graduated from here. He studied Eeks. And then last thing is that we also have 150 years of women in engineering here at UC Berkeley. So when we were founded about 152 years ago, and then 150 years ago is when we started admitting women, and they've been studying engineering that whole time. So throughout those 150 years, UC Berkeley has been putting a lot of female engineers out there in the world, and that's definitely had a big impact. I wouldn't be surprised if UC Berkeley's had more female engineers than any other university. I'm not too sure like what universities exactly, but if we've been doing it for 150 years, I wouldn't be surprised if we're at the top or near the top. So it's really great that UC Berkeley is like that ahead of time. So we have all those engineers out there. And with that, we'll be moving on to our Q&A session. Woo!
Amazing. Great tour, you guys. Thank you so much. I know I, for one, learned a lot about engineering that I did not know before. So with that, we will jump into our Q&A. And the first question that we have today is for Aidan. In this question, it says, there are a lot of different classes available to take at Berkeley. Very true. What has been your favorite class so far?
Yeah, so I'd say my favorite class that's engineering focused is one that I took last spring semester. And it's this class all about chemical engineering thermodynamics, which is like a really big topic. Sounds really scary, but it's really neat because it taught us a lot about how like the world works and how certain like reactions work, how you drive them to happen. And the biggest thing that made me like really geeky that I learned about in the class is we learned about this topic called entropy, which it's really hard to describe. I won't go too into detail, but it basically affects every single thing that happens in this world. And basically we talk about how you like take advantage of that to make certain things happen in chemistry and reactions. But it's something that completely changed the way how I looked at the world, and I truly think about it every day. And so that's just one thing I think is cool about engineering here at Berkeley, that you get that knowledge that you just apply to all sorts of different things. And real quick, I want to talk about another fun class that I took, which is through the music department, because you have like fun opportunities to take classes here and there from different departments. And so I took a class that was all about jazz music history in America. I took it over this past summer. It was a really great class. We got to listen to all sorts of jazz music, and our midterms really fun. We literally listened to a song, and then we'd have to like say like, oh, this is who made this song. This was like the impact of the song on like this community and that. And so that was really fun. So you have a lot of freedom to take classes, both in your major and outside your major, which is really fun.
Amazing. Thank you so much. The next question we have is for Kristina, and this one is a little bit more technical as far as the College of Engineering goes. So this person asks, if you figure out you like a different type of engineering while you're already at Berkeley, can you switch into a different major within the college?
Yeah, so As Aidan said earlier in the tour, I came into UC Berkeley as an undeclared engineering major. So highly recommend the major for anyone who doesn't completely know what they want to do. I just knew I wanted to do STEM and I wanted to do specifically engineering. But I want to do aerospace, but I wasn't sure I wanted to go, like, it was a minor, so I was like, should I do mechanical engineering? I was just really confused, and I had picked like different majors, and all my college applications were like, let me just pick undeclared. It sounds like it might be easier to get into. It actually isn't, but I'm so lucky I picked it and I got in. But yeah, if you are completely unsure, recommend that major, but also just recommend going with the major that right now you feel is the best fit for you. And if you come into Berkeley and later like start taking classes and start figuring out that there's a completely different major that you like more, that's fine. You can work, as Aidan said, we have like the best advisors in the College of Engineering / College of Chemistry and all of our colleges really. And they'll work with you to make sure that you're comfortable with your major. They're not going to keep you in a major that you're not like happy with. So they'll work with you the best they can to do that. Our electrical engineering computer science major is a little bit more difficult to transfer into. So if once you come here, you're like, oh, wow, I really want to do Eeks. It sounds really interesting. It'll be a process. The good thing is, if you are not in the College of Engineering, sadly, you can't transfer into that department. But if you are in the College of Engineering, you have to maintain a certain GPA. There's a lot that goes into it, but it is possible to do. So already just applying into the College of Engineering, if you're somewhat interested in it, is going to be a really big help because it's a lot easier to transfer between majors than to transfer from another college. As well, I've heard of students who have gone to the College of Engineering and then figured out, oh, College of Engineering really isn't for me. And the great thing is we have another 4 amazing undergraduate colleges. So it's really a lot easier. I'm not sure about chemistry, but for the other 3 colleges that are in our general tour, it's a lot easier to transfer out of the College of Engineering into those specific ones. And I'm sure chemistry is a process, but I think I've heard of like a couple people who have either tried or have like successfully been able to transfer from engineering to chemistry.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And yes, I know a lot of people who have discovered that their passion lies elsewhere and had a pretty straightforward time of switching across different branches of the university. So thank you so much. And our next question is for Aidan again. And this one is, what was your freshman experience like in the College of Engineering? And how did you make friends within your classes? So if you have any tips or suggestions for the audience today.
Yeah, so when I came here first as freshman at UC Berkeley, I was very scared. Of course, like majoring in engineering and then hearing about how UC Berkeley is like ranked really high with engineering and all of that. I wasn't too sure what the environment was going to be like. I thought it would be like super competitive and cutthroat and all that. And thankfully, my first week when I came here, all those fears very quickly went away, mainly because they focused a lot, as I said, throughout most of this tour on that collaboration to get together and work together on stuff, on like different discussion sections. Like I've met so many people when they've just like put us into little groups, and then in our lab section, especially for chemistry labs that we have to go through, like you have a lab partner that you work with, they become very good friends with, and also like the people around you in like the different lab stations, you generally like work with them as well, and you get to meet. And yeah, and also just like office hours, because there tends to be like multiple people there at office hours, and when you're trying to figure out something, you can just like talk with the people like around you to figure out stuff. A ton of friends through that. It's definitely I'd say that just like because the material is like really hard and challenging, you're kind of like forced to like work together with people in order to figure out how to do stuff. And because of that, you'll make like really great friends with people. And so yeah, my freshman experience was like really fun, just like seeing all those like fears go away, just meeting so many different people. Yeah, and the really neat thing with Zoom is that we have thankfully found ways to adapt to everything, being all collaborative. With everything being online. So like we have like all of our breakout rooms on Zoom, and also our GSI for my class, like he's like focusing on this thing where like he makes like little social nights for us where we get together like on Zoom and like play different games online. And so it's really cool that like that's like a part of the class that like we're all socializing with each other. It's really fun. And so yeah, as for some tips, I just say just focus a lot on just trying to get to meet like a lot of people, not just the people like within like engineering and all that, but also like people you'd be living in the dorms, people you're taking like your non-engineering classes with. Just focus on joining like other clubs and groups that are not just like engineering, because I feel like it's important to have like that wide range of different people that you know. It's definitely made me feel really happy that like, especially with the UC Rally Committee that Kristina and I are in, I've met so many like non-engineering people through that, and they're some of my best friends that I've ever met. And so yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And then the last question I'll ask you guys today is to ask you to share a little bit about your own personal Berkeley story. And we can start with Kristina and then go back to Aidan. But tell us a little bit about what drew you to the UC Berkeley College of Engineering and why you may have chosen to spend 4 years here.
Yeah, so I think like with a lot of you, I know we have like a lot of high school seniors watching. Right now is a stressful time. You're looking at all these different colleges and trying to figure out, oh, there's too many to pick from. What am I gonna choose? Like have to get all these like UC apps, Common Apps, and like done. And I hadn't visited Berkeley before coming here, but I heard it was a really great university. And because I'm from California, like my high school counselor recommended like, yeah, just apply to a couple UCs. And we were talking about what I was interested in. And Berkeley kind of came to the top of the list. It's during that time, it was ranked number 3 globally for best engineering program, and just had just great programs overall. That's another thing about Berkeley. We specifically talked about like how great the College of Engineering is, but we can have like hundreds of other stories about how great the university is in general. And like Aidan said, our experiences with people outside the College of Engineering. So yeah, heard great things about it, decided to apply to it in my UC app, got in, and then I came on a day called Cal Day, which takes place about mid-April, a couple of weeks before that May 1st decision day. So I came with my parents and I visited the campus, went up our clock and bell tower, and was able to kind of just see the Bay Area. I've never been to the Bay Area before, so that was really cool. Even though I'm from California, just never made the drive up here. And I was able to just see the Bay Area, able to talk to a lot of prospective students, able to sit in on some lectures and just really get like the feel of what it would be like to be a student at UC Berkeley for one day. Obviously, Cal Day is kind of like an exaggeration of a student at UC Berkeley because there's just a lot to do and campus is just super, super busy. But I really loved my experiences that day, just with everyone I came in contact with. And yeah, the academics were great to start off with just from researching the university, but also just when I visited, it was just a great experience. And that's why I decided to come to Berkeley. And as Aidan said, I've made a bunch of friends here and I've really I think I love Berkeley more now than when I applied to it. And I think that's a good sign that it's a great university.
All right, I'll move on to my Berkeley story now. So first of all, when I applied to UC Berkeley, I really didn't know anything about the campus. I did not think I was going to get in at all. So I didn't research anything. I thought I was going to maybe one of the schools more in the southern part of California near where I lived. And then I was very surprised to find out that I did get into UC Berkeley. And so that night when I found out, I'm like, okay, I don't know anything. So time to like look up, see what UC Berkeley is all about. And I was pretty amazed to see like all the big chemistry accomplishments because of course I wanted to look into all the chemistry, chemical engineering stuff and seeing like all the 16 elements discovered, like all these like Nobel prizes, all these like amazing accomplishments by like the faculty in engineering and chemistry. And I thought that was really amazing. And so before I chose to go there, though, I really wanted to visit the campus, get a feel for the campus, for all the campus community. So similar to Kristina, I went here during Cal Day. And that was the thing that really sold me at Berkeley. I talked about earlier about how the community is my favorite part at Berkeley. And I definitely had a lot of trouble in high school, like finding groups I belonged in, finding that sense of community. And UC Berkeley has definitely given that to me. And that's one of my favorite things when I first came here. Just everyone's just so friendly, so accepting, and everybody has some sort of group, organization, major, or something that they really feel like that they belong in, something that like that sense of community that they've like always wanted. And so yeah, that's the biggest thing that sold me in UC Berkeley. And ever since I came here, I've been so happy with that sense of community. And just all of the engineering topics I'm learning in my classes and like chemistry and everything are just like so interesting and so cool. And it's really great that I'm learning from some really amazing professors out there. So yeah, that's the biggest thing that sold me in UC Berkeley, just all the big engineering, chemistry, all the great academic accomplishments, and then also the community. And it's made me really happy that I decided to go here. Go Bears, woo!
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. And if you want to learn a little bit more about Berkeley, here are some ways that you guys can connect with us. You can follow us on Instagram at Visit UC Berkeley, where you will hear from ambassadors just like the ones that gave this visit today. You can also email us at tour@berkeley.edu, and a student ambassador like us will answer your questions. Similarly, you can go to the Bear Talk blog and keep up with the day-to-day life of being a UC Berkeley student. As I mentioned at the beginning of the visit, you can check out a different recorded visit on our YouTube channel at Visit UC Berkeley. We also have all of our COVID-19 responses and resources available at coronavirus.berkeley.edu. We mentioned 150 years of women in engineering, and you can learn more about the whole 150 years of women celebration at 150w.berkeley.edu. You can also see there the engineering.berkeley website if you want to learn more technical information about our engineering department. And then to sign up for other student panels or virtual visits, you can, of course, visit our website at visit.berkeley.edu. So with all that said, thank you so much for coming on our virtual visit today. I hope you enjoyed learning a little bit about our wonderful College of Engineering from our two amazing tour guides. And like always here at UC Berkeley, we will send you off with the good old classic Go Bears on 3. So if you guys are ready, 1, 2, 3. Go Bears!
Go Bears!